And yeah, the concept is really interesting, but also in Canada, it's a necessity. We have such a large country, and we ha do have universal health care for in the country. So if you have people that are in these rugged communities, they still need health services. So that's sort of how our show comes into play, where pilots, which I am on the show, we would fly up and bring nurses and then treat people there or bring them back down to the major cities to be treated. So as much as it's kind of a crazy concept, in probably a lot of countries that are much smaller, maybe that wouldn't make sense. But in Canada, is so vast that it's kind of a nice interesting sort of side of things that we don't always get to see, but is very true in Canada.
Yeah, you mentioned that about the reality in terms of that and concept. I know sometimes actors, especially when they play period pieces, they like to do very much their research into the genre, research into the decade, the customs, to do it sort of justice, to sort of live the role, to get in sort of character. But sometimes when you're playing a sort of piece that is mirrored in reality and such, do you almost like to go out and meet the real life sort of person that is doing these jobs to get an influence, get an insight of what it might take in their daily routines to pick up one or two tricks along the way that you can use? Did anyone come in along set to give you a sort of guidance in terms of that, or give you to tell you their real life story?
Yeah, well, we sort of have multiple consultants on the show because one aspect of it is the flying, which is what I do, and then obviously there's the huge medical component. So at the beginning of the season, I'll speak for the pilots because I didn't do the medical training, but yeah, we Julie, who is the showrunner, I believe it's her brother-in-law. Is actually a pilot, and her brother-in-law and her sister were sort of the or the idea for the show. They fell in love working up north and this type of thing. So we had him as a to kind of show us the basics. Obviously, we're not actually flying the planes, spoiler. But obviously, you want to look like you know what you're doing, and there's so much to sort of grasp the concept of and lingo. So yeah, we would sit down, and we didn't actually get to do a flight simulator, but he did have sort of a mock-up of the cockpit, and we would sit there and we would ask questions. Okay, so the line says I'm trimming the flap. Well, where would that be on the plane that we have? And he would show us little things. So yeah, you want to have some level of realism. I'm not over the top with some of that detail because, to be honest with you, they're seeing this much, so it's like you want to know to generally know where to look and whatever. But yeah, obviously certain actors get way into the specifics of their character. We were speaking a little bit earlier, I think, before we started recording, that we'd done an interview before in 2018. I was working on a show where I was flying a spaceship, so I feel like I'm bringing some sort of experience to the show at that point with flying.
I suppose actors as well, they sort of engross themselves, they learn their lines, but sometimes remembering facts and jargon and code, it's a very difficult sort of concept because you're trying to think it, memorize it in your head, but as you're memorizing it, you're trying to act it out as well. Is that sometimes sort of challenging? So some characters love to do improv, just go with the sort of flow. Actors, I mean, love to do improv, go
Mhm.
with the sort of flow and feel that sort of chemistry. But when you're learning sort of real technical sort of stuff as well, is that sort of a challenge in one way to memorize it and then put the emotion with it as well?
It is, and the most difficult thing for me, or to do in these scenarios, is a lot of the times when the jargon's coming out, it's in these very heightened situations. It's a panic. There's a fire in the cockpit, so it's about being able to deliver the lines in a heightened state while still remembering all the jargon and all the things. So I mean, to me, it's about repetition. You just go over it over and over and over again, especially the jargony stuff, so that it just comes out as if it's second nature. So in one sense, it's new and you're not really doing it, but if anything, you go over it enough times, it starts to become second nature. So I think that's the idea sometimes, is just to really get it drilled in there, so you're not looking for it.
Yeah. I'll use a sporting analogy now. They always say in sports sometimes it's the 12th man of the team, the 12th player, that extra sort of factor that you sort of don't see. But the sort of the 12th man, the extra player of SkyMed is the visual backgrounds, the stunning sort of landscape that you get to see in northern Canada as well, in terms of how much is that offshoot location. While I know you know the landscape quite well, how much is it in terms of how much can you heighten the factor as an actor when you're there on foot on these sorts of locations and there's not a green screen camera and there's not sort of make believe in terms of that?
Yeah, we're very fortunate in Canada with beautiful countryside, and it's amazing when we use it. And there's a lot of shows that are set in cities or whatever, but yeah, the more rural, well, it's not even rural. I mean, it's we're talking wilderness, right? When we get up there, but we shoot the show in a town called North Bay, which is about 3.5 hours, 4 hours drive straight north from Toronto, so away from the hub. So we're quite a ways out there. We're surrounded by lakes, beautiful forests. It's not exactly the wild, wild wilderness of some of the um, visuals that they get, I think, are from even farther up north to look at make it look even remoter than it really is. But that's all Canada, and I think that using it, and a lot of people around the world have been, I think, really interested in the show, not just because of the subject matter, but because of the beauty of it. You know, there's people, Brazil, South Africa, that have come, just been like, wow, like Canada is so beautiful. And I'm like, oh yeah, it is, but you're used to it, you know, like we all like to travel and see different things, something that's a little more unique to our perspective. But I think that they do a great job of showcasing how beautiful some of the wilderness in Canada is.
Yeah. And Aaron, obviously, in terms of this sort of series, we saw the drama, the in season two, the fight for survival, the sort of plane crash as well. Season three now, are we sort of nitty gritty, sort of intermashing connections, relationships, or do we still get just one or two great sort of survivor stories, great big massive sort of incidents, or are we very much in grasp with the day-to-day life of these characters?
Well, we'll definitely there's cases every week, every show that we're going through, but there's also a much bigger um, piece this year. Something very, very big happens in the first episode, and it sort of ripples throughout the season. It shapes the rest of the season in a really major way for our entire team, specifically one character, which I won't give away. I don't like to give away spoilers, but it really does change the dynamic of the show, and all of the characters are sort of dealing with this big change throughout the show. So yeah, there's going to be lots of little cases and lots of relationships, people hooking up, and that's the way the show goes. But there's also something that I think really grounds it in a pretty amazing way and allows the characters and the actors to really shine this season. So I think if you're a fan of the show, season three is a great season.
Yeah. And Aaron, before we came on air, you mentioned another exciting project that is just around the corner as well that you're involved in. You might give us the heads up on that?
Yeah, season three of, is it season three? Yes, it is, of Ginny and Georgia, which is a very popular Netflix show. It is being released, I believe it's June 5th, and I'm involved with that as well in a pretty good capacity. We were actually shooting both shows at the same time, and SkyMed was really nice to let me zip off and go do some Ginny and Georgia when it made sense. So yeah, I'm very fortunate to have two really great shows coming out within like a month of each other.
Yeah. And how exciting is that for an actor to walk into, dare I say, to come into a successful show, that a popular show that's not in its infancy, that sort of that is well established at this stage as well. You almost feel that there's greater expectations in terms of the long-term prosperity. Sometimes these sort of pilot sort of series that are given a certain 7 or 8 episodes and they have to meet certain criteria, certain numbers if they start to get renewed as an actor. So you're almost rolling the dice, dare I say, hoping that it gets renewed and picked up and life. But when you walk into a successful show like Ginny and Georgia, it must give you a great balance that, right, I'm here in SkyMed, this is season three, coming onto a new series now that is already established as well. It must be a good sense in terms of the longevity of the series, dare I say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a great feeling to be working on two great things. And but yeah, when you come onto something new, you always want to, you hope that you can make it better. You hope you're bringing something to it that will again give it more longevity and add to it. But sometimes you just have to go do your thing. You can't worry about who like so much of that aspect of it is out of our control. So I try not to think about that stuff too much. I try and just go in and do my best job. And I am a confident actor. Like when I go into something, I do feel I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try and add to this. So that's all you can do. The rest of it is sort of out in the air. You can't really put a finger on it. So you do what you can do, and the rest is up to the powers that be.
And just one quick question before we wrap up. The you mentioned the shooting Ginny in Georgia. You mentioned SkyMed in terms of that. Projects that are based in to Canada. We see a good lot of Toronto, Greater Vancouver. You mentioned as well Winnipeg as well. Are you very much sort of established in Canada now in terms of doing work? If an exciting project or a movie came along your way, maybe overseas, is if the role was exciting, would you consider it, or is it much
Oh
you
yeah. Well,
Canada your home? No.
I mean, my home is here. I have two small children, so I like to work at home at this point in my career. When I was younger, 20s, yeah, send me wherever. Take me, that was exciting. You get to go work in a different city or a different country. You get to really immerse yourself in the project and with the people you're working with because you're not at home. Everybody's sort of a family in those regards. But at this point in my life, I mean, I will always, a great opportunity. I never pass up a great opportunity, but it's far more appealing to work in Canada right now just because I have to be close to my family. But as they get older, probably and want to hang out less with their dad, I'm sure it's like, okay, well, I can go take these jobs now, and they won't be missing me as much. So, yeah, to travel and to work is the dream.
Okay. Aaron Ashmore, I'm going to turn it over to you for the final 30 seconds. So you might enlighten all our audience, all our listeners, why they should tune in to season 3 of SkyMed out on May the 15th in Paramount Plus. And when they do, Aaron, what's in store for them?
Well, season three is going to be packed with action, adventure, love, maybe some tragedy. I don't want to say too much, but yeah. And again, I think if you're a fan of medical shows, high intensity, anything like that, this is right up your alley. So please enjoy. Please tune in on the 15th.